Thank you all so much for coming.
Keep moving, madam.
Just a moment, let's take a picture.
The wedding was perfect. 250 guests. A 5-star venue in Victoria Island, Lagos. A bride in a gown that cost more than most people's yearly salary. And in the front row, one seat was reserved. Not for a family member. Not for an old friend. For the groom's ex-wife. He wanted her there. He needed her there. Not to celebrate with him. Not to wish him well. He invited her so she could watch. So she could see everything she had lost. So she could sit in her plain dress and cry while he married someone better. That was the plan. But then a red Ferrari pulled up to the entrance. A bodyguard stepped out first, tall and broad, scanning the entrance like he was protecting something precious. Then he opened the passenger door. And when she stepped out, every single person at that wedding stopped breathing. Because the woman they expected to come crawling arrived like a queen. Now before I tell you what happened next, hit that subscribe button. If you love stories where the humble rise and the proud fall, subscribe right now and turn on notifications. Because what happens inside the wedding hall is something nobody saw coming. Now let me take you back to where it all began. The invitation arrived on a Monday morning. White envelope, gold lettering, heavy paper. Adiz Okafor stared at it for a full minute before she opened it. She already knew who it was from. She recognized the handwriting on the envelope. She opened it slowly. You are cordially invited to the wedding of Emeka Dyke and Chisholm Is. Saturday, November 9th. The Grandeur Hall, Victoria Island, Lagos. And at the bottom, written by hand in blue ink. I saved you a front row seat, Adiz. Come and see what a real wife looks like. Adiz read those words 3 times. She did not cry. She did not scream. She folded the invitation, placed it on her kitchen table, and went back to braiding her daughter's hair. Mama, who sent that? 7-year-old Chidra asked, pointing at the envelope. Nobody important, my love. Finish your breakfast. But it was not nobody. It was Emeka's final attempt to break her. And he had absolutely no idea what he was about to face. Adiz Okafor was 33 years old. She lived in a small 2-bedroom flat in Suraley, a busy neighborhood on Lagos mainland. She drove a fairly used Toyota Corolla that she had bought with her own savings. She worked as a seamstress from home, sewing and altering clothes for women in her community. She woke up at 5 every morning. She sewed before her daughter Chidra woke up. She got Chidra ready for school. She sewed some more. She picked her up in the afternoon, cooked dinner, put her to bed, then sewed again until midnight. Every single day. No breaks. No help. Just Adiz and her daughter against the world. To her neighbors she was the quiet woman in flat 3A. Gentle, hardworking, always smiling even when the smile did not reach her eyes. They knew she was divorced. They knew the ex-husband was trouble. But they did not know the full story. Because Adiz never talked about it. She locked it away deep inside herself and focused on her daughter and her work. But that invitation was a key. And it was about to unlock everything. Adiz met Emeka Dyke when she was 24 years old. She had just moved to Lagos from Enugu where she grew up. Her mother was a tailor. Her grandmother was a tailor before that. 3 generations of women who could turn fabric into something beautiful. Adiz dreamed of opening her own fashion label one day. A real studio. Her own designs. But dreams cost money she did not have. So she took a job as a seamstress at a boutique in Lekki. That is where she met Emeka. He walked in wearing an expensive agbada that needed adjustment. Tall, handsome, smooth-talking, the kind of man who made you feel like the most important person in the room when he looked at you. I need this fixed, he said, smiling at her. But honestly I think I need your number more. Adiz laughed. She was not the type to fall for that kind of line. But Emeka was persistent. He came back the next day. And the next. Always with something that needed fixing. Always with that smile. By the fourth visit she gave him her number. By the sixth date she was falling. By the third month she was in love. Emeka called himself a property developer. He bought land, sold plots, connected buyers and sellers. He was not rich but he dressed like he was. Designer clothes, new car, big talk. All of it was built on debt and borrowed confidence. But Adis did not know that yet. All she knew was that this man made her feel seen and special and enough. They married after 9 months. Small court wedding. Emeka promised a big celebration when his next deal closed. The big celebration never came. But the real Emeka did. It started with small things. Comments about her cooking. My mother's egusi is better than this. Comments about her clothes. You are my wife now, you cannot dress like a market woman. Comments about her work. Sewing is not a career. That is what village women do when they have nothing better. Each comment was a small cut. And slowly, cut by cut, he carved away her confidence. By the time their daughter Chidra was born, Adis barely recognized herself. She had stopped sewing for pleasure. Stopped dreaming. Stopped laughing the way she used to. She spent her days cleaning a house that was never clean enough, cooking food that was never good enough, being a wife who was never enough. And Emeka was never home. He was always networking, always chasing deals, always somewhere else. She found out later what he was really chasing. He had been cheating on her since the first year of their marriage. Different women, different lies. When Adis found the messages on his phone she confronted him. His response broke something inside her that took years to repair. What are you going to do about it? Viv. Go where? You have nothing, Adis. No money, no real career, no family in this city. You are nothing without me. He said it calmly. Like he was reading out a fact. And the worst part was that she believed him. She stayed for 1 more year. 1 more year of insult and infidelity and isolation. He controlled the money. He controlled who she spoke to and when. She was a prisoner inside her own home. Until the night he came back drunk and raised his hand at her. That was the line. She took Chidra and left that same night with nothing but a bag of clothes and her daughter's school bag. She stayed with a neighbor for 2 weeks. Then she found the flat in Suralia. She got a second-hand sewing machine. She started taking in alterations for 1,000 naira, 2,000 naira, whatever people could pay. The divorce was painful. Emeka fought for everything. Claimed she was an unfit mother. Claimed she had abandoned the marriage. He lost every argument but the judge awarded Adis almost nothing financially. Emeka had hidden his assets carefully. On paper he was nearly broke. She walked away with custody of Chidra and a small monthly payment that barely covered school fees. Emeka laughed when the ruling came down. Enjoy your little flat, Adis. Enjoy your little sewing machine. That was 3 years ago. And now he was getting married again. To someone better. And he wanted Adis to watch. 3 days after the invitation arrived, something happened that would change everything. But it did not feel like a life-changing moment at the time. It felt like an ordinary Wednesday. Adis was at a fabric shop on Balegan Market. She needed a very specific shade of burnt orange ochre for a client's dress. She was crouching down checking the bottom of a fabric roll when she heard a voice above her. Excuse me, do you work here? She looked up. A man stood over her. Tall, calm, dark-skinned with quiet steady eyes. He was wearing simple clothes. Plain trousers, a fitted black shirt, clean shoes. Nothing flashy. But there was something about the way he carried himself. Like a man who had nothing to prove to anyone. No, I don't work here, Adis said standing up. But I know this place well enough. Maybe I can help. What are you looking for? The man smiled. I need heavy-duty fabric for furniture. Something strong but with a good finish. Adi studied him for a moment. Are you reupholstering something? Yes. An armchair. An old one I am restoring. Adis nodded and led him 2 rows down. This is what you need, she said, pulling out a roll of thick textured fabric. Durable, good color, easy to work with. The man looked at her. How do you know all this? I am a seamstress, she said simply. Fabric is my business. He laughed. A quiet, genuine laugh. I am Tebena, he said, extending his hand. Tebena is Adis. Just Adis for now. They walked to the counter together. They talked about fabric. About Lagos traffic. About the heat. About nothing and everything. It was the easiest conversation she had experienced in years. As they were leaving, Tebena turned to her. Adis, I know this is forward, but would you like to have lunch sometime? There is a small restaurant near here that makes the best ofada rice in Lagos. She hesitated. Every part of her said no. The last man she trusted had destroyed her. She had walls now. Thick ones. But something about this man's eyes. They were patient. They did not demand anything. Just lunch, she said carefully. That is all. Just lunch, he agreed. That is all. It was not all. But neither of them knew that yet. Lunch turned into a second meeting. Then a walk along the waterfront in Onairu. Then dinner at a quiet spot in Ikeja where the owner greeted Tebena warmly. Each time Adis learned a little more about him. He was from Anambra originally. Grew up partly in Lagos, partly abroad. He said he ran a business. Investment and consulting. He was vague about the details and Adis did not push. She was not interested in his money. She had married a man who pretended to have money and it had nearly destroyed her. What she was interested in was how he treated her. Tebena listened when she spoke. He remembered details. He remembered that Chidra's favorite food was fried plantain. That Adis' eyes lit up when she talked about fabric. That she dreamed of having her own fashion label one day. He never made her feel small. Not once. One evening after their third meeting, Adis was sewing late at night when her phone buzzed. A message from Tebena. I enjoyed today. Your daughter is wonderful. You are raising her beautifully. Rest well, Adis. She read it 3 times. And for the first time in years she cried. Not from pain. From being seen. What Adis did not know was that Tebena was not a regular consultant. Tebena was the founder and CEO of his Capital Partners, one of the most respected private investment firms in West Africa. He managed assets worth billions of naira. He owned commercial properties across Lagos, Abuja and Port Harcourt. He had investments in agriculture, technology and real estate development. His personal wealth was something that most people in Nigeria could not count to even in their dreams. He lived in a large house in Banana Island, one of the most exclusive addresses in Lagos. He had a personal driver, a chef, and a security detail. But you would never know any of this by looking at him. Tebena dressed simply. He drove himself on most days in an old Toyota Land Cruiser that he refused to change because it still works fine. He ate at local restaurants. He knew his gateman's children by name. He had learned something important years ago. Wealth attracts the wrong kind of attention. His previous relationship had taught him that. A woman who loved his lifestyle but not him. When things became difficult briefly, she disappeared without a second thought. After that, Tebena decided to live quietly. No flashy cars on regular days. No expensive watches. No announcing himself. He wanted to meet someone who saw him, not what he owned. And then one ordinary Wednesday he walked into Baliga Market and met a woman crouching on the floor looking for orange Ankara fabric. A woman who helped him without knowing or caring who he was. That was when Tebena knew something was different about this one. Addis tried to throw the invitation away twice. Both times she pulled it back out. Not because she wanted to go. Because she was afraid of what it meant if she did not. He will say I was too afraid to show up, she told her friend Ngozi on the phone. He will tell everyone I was too broken to face him. Ngozi hissed. Addis, forget that man. He is not worth your time. I know. But I need to close this chapter, Ngozi. I need to walk into that hall and prove to myself that he has no power over me anymore. Then go. But go on your own terms. That evening Tebena came to visit. He played with Chidera for a while, then after the little girl went to bed Addis showed him the invitation. Tebena read it slowly. His jaw tightened when he reached the handwritten note at the bottom. He set it down quietly. Do you want to go? He asked. I think I need to. He nodded. Then you are going. But not alone. What do you mean? He looked at her the way he always did. Steady and calm and completely present. Addis, there is something I should have told you a while ago. Her stomach dropped immediately. Here it comes, she thought. The truth. He is married. He is leaving. Every fear lined up inside her chest. What is it? She whispered. I am not a consultant, he said. Not exactly. I run an investment firm. It's Capital Partners. We manage a lot of money. I have a house in Banana Island, a security team. I am wealthy, Addis. Very wealthy. Addis stared at him. What? I did not tell you because I needed to know that what we have is real. That you liked me for me. And I know that now. I have known for a while. How wealthy? Does it matter? Tebena. He paused. Enough to never worry about anything again. Addis was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked at his plain black shirt. His simple watch. You have been driving that old Land Cruiser. It works fine. You ate leftover jollof rice at my kitchen table. It was excellent jollof. She laughed. A real laugh. Loud and surprised. And then the tears came quietly behind the laughter. Why me? She asked. I have nothing. I am a seamstress in Suralia. I drive a Corolla. Why would you? Because you helped a stranger in a market without wanting anything in return, he said. Because you love your daughter with everything you have. Because you have been through real pain and you are still standing, still sewing, still smiling. He looked at her directly. I have met women who wanted my money and my name. You are the first woman in a long time who just wanted my time. Do you know how rare that is? She could not speak. Tebena picked up the invitation. About this wedding. Your ex-husband wants to humiliate you. He wants you to show up looking defeated so he can feel powerful. Yes. Tebena set the invitation down. Here is what is going to happen instead. You are going to that wedding. But you are going as yourself. The real you. The woman he was too foolish to see. And when you walk through those doors, I want every person in that hall to understand exactly what Emeka Dyke lost. Addis looked at him. Do you trust me? He asked. Yes, she said quietly. I trust you. Then leave everything to me. November 9th arrived and Emeka Dyke was in the best mood of his life. The Grandeur Hall in Victoria Island was magnificent. Chandeliers, marble floors, a terrace overlooking Lagos Island. 250 guests filled the venue. Business contacts, friends, social media people he had invited to record everything. He wanted the world to see. His new bride Chisholm was 25, beautiful, stylish, with the kind of confidence that came from never having suffered a day in her life. Her dress cost a fortune. She looked perfect. And she was perfectly clear about what she was marrying. Not a man. A lifestyle. The house in Lekki, the cars, the credit cards. Love was not part of the equation. This was an arrangement with wedding vows. Emeka stood at the altar scanning the crowd. He was looking for one face. Addis. He had invited her specifically for this moment. He needed to see her sitting in that front row watching him marry someone younger and more beautiful. He needed that victory. The ceremony began. Chisholm walked down the aisle. Guests applauded. But Emeka kept glancing at the front row. Addis' seat was empty. His smile faltered. She's not coming, his cousin Efoni whispered beside him. She will come, Emeka muttered. She has to. The pastor began speaking. 5 minutes passed. 10 minutes. The front row seat stayed empty. Emeka's jaw tightened. This was not how it was supposed to go. And then a murmur moved through the crowd. It started at the back near the entrance. Heads turned. Phones came out. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Emeka looked toward the glass doors. Outside on the driveway a red Ferrari had just pulled up. Sleek, polished, burning like fire in the afternoon sun. The door of a black SUV parked behind it opened first. A bodyguard stepped out. Broad-shouldered, dark suit, earpiece, the kind of man whose job was to make sure nothing went wrong. He scanned the entrance, positioned himself, then walked to the Ferrari and opened the passenger door. And she stepped out. Addis. But not the Addis they were expecting. Not a quiet woman from Suralia in a simple dress. This Addis was wearing a custom deep gold gown that moved with her like it was alive. Her hair was pinned up elegantly. Small diamond earrings caught the light. Her makeup was clean and radiant. She looked like someone who had never known a moment of suffering in her life. She looked like royalty. She adjusted her clutch, nodded at the bodyguard, and walked toward the entrance of the grandeur hall. Inside 250 guests watched through the glass. Nobody made a sound. Emeka's face collapsed. Confusion. Disbelief. Recognition. And then something that looked very much like fear. Because standing outside with Addis, having just stepped out of the SUV behind the Ferrari, was a man in a charcoal-fitted suit. Calm, tall, powerfully built. Tobena is. A man whose name appeared in business newspapers. A man whose firm moved money that most people could not imagine. Emeka knew that name. Everyone in Lagos business circles knew that name. And that man was walking in with his ex-wife. Chisholm leaned toward Emeka. Who is that woman? She whispered. Her eyes were not on Addis. They were on Tobena. Emeka could not answer. His mouth had gone dry. The glass doors opened and Addis walked in. The room was completely silent. She did not rush. She walked down the center aisle slowly and steadily like a woman who owned every second of her time. Tobena walked beside her, one hand resting lightly on her back. The bodyguard stayed near the entrance. Addis reached the front row. She looked at her seat. Then she looked at Emeka. And she smiled. Not a bitter smile. Not a vengeful smile. A peaceful smile. The smile of a woman who had walked through fire and come out the other side completely whole. Hello Emeka, she said calmly. Thank you for the invitation. Emeka opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Tobena stood beside her quietly. His presence alone said everything that needed to be said. Aren't you going to introduce me to your bride? Addis asked pleasantly. Emeka swallowed hard. Addis, how did you? Addis tilted her head. You seem surprised. Was that not the point? You wanted me here. So here I am. Tobena extended his hand to Emeka with a polite nod. Emeka shook it on reflex. His grip was weak. His palm was wet. Please, Addis said sweetly. Don't let us interrupt. Continue with your beautiful ceremony. She sat down in the front row. Tobena sat beside her. They settled in like two people who had simply come to enjoy the afternoon. The pastor cleared his throat and tried to continue. Do you Emeka take? Wait. Emeka held up his hand. He turned to Addis. His voice was too loud. Too desperate. Who is this man? Where did you meet him? Is this some kind of joke? 250 guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Addis crossed her legs and looked at him calmly. Emeka, you are in the middle of your wedding. Your bride is standing right there. Focus on her. Don't tell me what to focus on. You show up here with a bodyguard and a Ferrari. You, the woman who could not even fix her own generator. Where did you get? I got nothing from anyone, Addis said. Her voice was quiet but it filled the entire hall. This dress I am wearing, I made it myself. With these hands. She held them up. The same hands you called worthless. The same hands you said were only good for market women. The room was absolutely still. The man beside me, she continued, he found me. Not because I was rich or perfect. Because I was real. Because I was honest. Because I sewed late into the night while my daughter slept and I never stopped believing in myself even when you spent years trying to make me stop. She looked at Emeka directly. You wrote come and see what a real wife looks like. So I came. And now everyone here can see exactly what a real wife looks like. She placed the invitation on the empty seat beside her. The question is, Emeka, can you see what a real husband looks like? She glanced briefly at Tebena. Tebena said nothing. He did not need to. 250 people looked at Emeka Dyke and for the first time in his life he had absolutely nothing to say. Chisholm, however, had been doing calculations in her head from the moment Tebena walked in. She looked at Emeka. She looked at Tebena. She looked at Emeka again. Emeka, she said slowly. Did you divorce this woman? Chisholm, not now. You left this woman, she said, her voice getting sharper, and she came back like this. What exactly did you think you were doing? I said not now. No. Chisholm pulled off her engagement ring. The video reached 2 million views before Addis even got home that evening. By the next morning it was everywhere. Every blog, every WhatsApp group, every corner of Nigerian social media. The woman who stepped out of the Ferrari. The seamstress who walked into her ex-husband's wedding and walked out with her dignity intact. But Addis did not spend much time reading about herself. She was too busy living. 6 months after the wedding, Tebena took her to a building in Lagos Island. A beautiful space with large windows, clean walls and room enough to build something real. What is this? Addis asked. Your studio, he said. I had a business name registered last week. Addis Couture. Your fashion house. Your label. The rest, the designs, the vision, everything inside it, that is yours. I just opened the door. Addis walked through the space slowly. She touched the cutting tables, the fabric racks, the industrial sewing machines. In the corner of the room there was a small framed piece on the wall. Inside the frame was a piece of burnt orange Ankara fabric. The same shade she was looking for the day they met. That was when she broke down completely. She cried into his chest for a long time. And for the first time in her life the tears felt like a beginning and not an end. Addis Couture launched 4 months later. Her first collection, rooted in traditional Nigerian Osok and Ankara patterns reimagined for modern women, sold out within 3 days. Style writers called it the debut of the year. But the moment that mattered most to Addis was not any review or any order. It was the evening Chidra visited the studio for the first time and ran through the space touching everything with wide eyes. Mama, Chidra said. Did you make all of this? Addis knelt down and looked at her daughter. Every single stitch, my love. As for Emeka, the wedding video followed him everywhere. Clients distanced themselves. His reputation collapsed along with the property deals he had been barely holding together. Within a year he had lost the Lekki house and most of what he had built. The man who once told his wife she was nothing had become exactly that. Tebena proposed to Addis on a quiet Sunday morning inside the studio. The ring was simple and beautiful, gold band, single diamond, and engraved on the inside were 2 words. Balegan Market. Addis said yes before he finished asking. They married the following year in a small garden ceremony with the people who truly mattered. Addis made her own dress. Deep gold fabric, hand-stitched, every thread placed with care. It was the most beautiful dress anyone at that wedding had ever seen. Not because of how it looked. Because of who made it and what it had cost her to get there. Emeka Dyke reserved that front row seat to break Addis one final time. He wanted her to sit there and feel small while he stood tall. Instead she walked in like a woman who had long since stopped needing his approval. She did not shout. She did not fight. She simply showed up as herself. And that was more than enough. Because the truth that Emeka never understood is this. You cannot shame a woman who knows her own worth. You cannot humiliate someone who has already survived your worst. And sometimes the most powerful thing a person can do is walk away in peace and let their life speak for itself. If this story moved something in you, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because every week we bring you stories of strength, resilience, and the kind of justice that does not need a loud voice to be heard. Modern African folktales. We never forget.